Hello, and welcome to the Bardic INNspiration.
What do you get when you mix a dragon, a centipede, a snake, and a crocodile? That's right, in this episode we're talking about the Behir.
Unlike most of the other creatures that we've talked about, the Behir's history is based in D&D itself. It began in 1982 with the Lost Cavern of Socamp, and then was followed up the following year in the Monster Manual 2. It is described as the huge serpent magical beast with a crocodile head and 12 powerful legs. And it moves by foot, or it can slither, so it can retract its legs and slither around as well. It's covered in hard scales. I would see it as more of a slithering snake, wouldn't it?
Well, I'd say it crawls.
I mean, it really is a combination between a dragon, a centipede, a snake, and a crocodile.
Right.
Oh, where's the crocodile?
The head.
Oh, it's mistaken
Not a dragon?
often by the wingless dragon. And it's also got...
Wingless blue dragon, to be
It's
specific.
against dragons a lot of the time.
Well, what you missed was that it has spines all the way down the head, and it's got a couple almost ram-like horns. They kind of curl, somewhat like a black dragon's horns, how they kind of curl, but they're very small, and literally they're only for grooming purposes.
Okay.
It's just to, scratch that itch out of the way of its tail,
nice.
or so on and so forth. They're not really used for combat. They're not very prominent or strong enough for it.
Right.
I just like the idea that it'll start using its horns to start sort of like shedding its skin off of itself and like cut it open so it can start like shedding.
Yeah, kind of like a cat.
Yeah.
Do they shed?
Or
I hope so. They have scales.
Yeah, they have scales.
they're seen more serpentine.
Dragons, do they shed? Because they have scales.
I'm sure they do.
I wouldn't think like a snake though, where it
Yeah.
all stays. I think it's more like the scales
Like,
break off when they're
Break off
older,
and then
it grows a new one.
More like teeth.
New teeth,
Yeah.
Now, as we mentioned,
Do you want to ride a
it
dragon?
can be 40 foot long, so
Yeah,
let's say
Do
a
you?
party comes across this thing and wants to use it as a mount. That's a long mount.
I
You can
believe
fit
you
a
can-
whole
I
party
was
on
going
that
to say
thing.
you confused mount with train or just
Yeah,
vast
train.
transit vehicle.
Right.
I'd go back to the goblin episode
Behir
idea where you
transit
just have a
service
whole bunch
turned
of
to a
goblins
bus.
riding it.
Yeah, a whole bunch of goblins coming down the mountain.
In D&D, we don't have bus stops. We have Behir stops.
Nice.
Oh, geez, that would be some futuristic. But
We call it the lightning line.
Yes, as he just mentioned, it does spew lightning.
and that's why it's often mistaken for a wingless blue dragon.
Yeah.
It's got the bluish scales. It spews a stream of
That
lightning.
is like one mutated blue dragon.
Well, and speaking of mutation, that's the whole origin of where this came from, like as far as history, not necessarily that Gygax created it, but more like the idea as far as mythos in our real world or in D&D mythos, history. There is no confirmed source of its origin. It just happens to be kind of like dragons, if you think about it. Like dragons are just there.
Are you certain of that? That storm giants were the first to create Behirs as
Yeah.
weapons against the dragon.
Oh.
Weapons against the dragons. That's why I mentioned that they were always against them. They were bred to be against them.
I did not know that.
Yes, they are natural foes.
Well, I do know that. I
Yeah.
do know that they're naturally. I thought it was more of a territorial thing that
Oh,
they're both blue,
I gotcha.
fiery, spears. But
they were created to combat dragons.
They were literally bred to hate dragons.
interesting.
To the point where if they know that there's a dragon nearby where they live in their lair, that they will either choose to drive the dragon out, or if the dragon is too powerful, they'll move great distances away to, never deal with that dragon again.
Now, as far as the Behir and the intelligence, they trying to talk with one. If you can get one to talk, not very common. They have just enough intelligence to speak. It might be very broken English or broken Draconic. Common, not English.
I'm certain there are kobolds smarter than Behirs.
I almost want to take that.
Those kobold inventors.
Oh, okay. There are kobolds that are smart. Yeah.
In the same sense, they're natural predators, though. So like they will hunt down a party. So like they might not be intelligent as far as the game is concerned, but they know how to evade and to
They know when to fight and when to flee.
They're also they're intelligent predator. Like they're on par with, say, like if you look at like in the real world, like a tiger or a lion, like hunting like a pack of animals in the wild. Like they're methodical about it. They have a plan and they know what they're doing. Similarly to it, and we'll talk about it later. But Behirs are also, they're not like smart, like compared to a human or a humanoid race, but they're smart enough to understand, oh, this is how I'm going to feed today.
Right.
Which we'll also talk about later.
And that's when they do feed, is they're very active in the day.
I mean, they have a wisdom. They know. I think that's where more like knows how to hunt. Kind of.
Yeah, the difference between intelligence and wisdom.
It's like kind of bestial nature.
Right.
I mean, they are considered monstrosities versus being considered dragons, at least in 5th edition. So kind of moving on into our Valor section, how would you guys see a Behir performing in combat?
Well, I've actually, back in towards the end of my 4th edition days, my party actually came across a Behir and a couple other exotic animals during a circus event. The situation came down to, we were at this event and we were looking around in the crowd and we saw these thieves picking pockets. And their ultimate goal, if they were to be caught, which they eventually were by us, was to, one of them would jump into the arena and release all the animals, which happened. And we had to jump into action and combat them. So there was, I believe, a Behir, a Bewlet, a cockatrice, and a basilisk. So it was a cluster of animals. Something along those lines, these exotic creatures all coming together in a big event. I would throw that out there. Currently I have a campaign that's got a few members at a big festival, so maybe you guys would come across a whelp of a basilisk or
okay, but more specifically, how did it combat you or your party?
So it was agile. It was very agile. It went up into the rafters. It came down. It shot from the rafters. Its lightning bolts, and we had to evade. It constricted one of our party members, which was a small creature. So she bamped out of constricting. So that was a good thing. But we eventually did have to take him down.
So one of the things that, kind of what you said, like the Behirs are very agile, and so they have a lot of speed that they can use to their advantage. And then with that, they also have the advantage because they're used to being in like mountainous regions and stuff. They're very good climbers.
Yeah.
So they have a natural ability to where they can just sort of climb up walls and they can get away from like enemy combatants. Say, for example, if you're in a fight, it's in a fight with some people, and let's say, all the party's melee fighters get right up next to it and start wailing on him. He can just run up the wall and he'll be safe because they can't reach him anymore. And then he also has 2 abilities that he can use with that, one of which, we kind of mentioned it earlier a bit, they can breathe lightning. It's not extremely far. In 5e, it's only 20 feet, but it's a very powerful blast of lightning. So they have that advantage. They're also, because of how big they also have a bit of reach, and they can constrict people to drag them with them. They can swallow people and then just slowly dissolve them away with their acidic inner body. So one good strategy for if you are running a Behir could be run up, swallow someone, run up a cliffside and hide until you digest them.
Right.
And if anyone comes after you, you could just start breathing lightning down and then retreat further away.
Well, I wonder if the digestion system is a bit like a snake's, where it takes a long time to fully digest. Like, it might be enough to kill the creature that you're eating, but maybe a little longer. I mean,
To actually fully digest it.
So maybe, like, swallow it long enough for it to stop fighting back and then go get another member and repeat process.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Hit
So-
and run.
In 4th edition, there were 3 different types, whereas in 5th edition, there is just one specific one. And I just want to read an excerpt from the 4th edition. The Bolter Whelp is what it was called. So the Bolter Whelp moves swiftly into melee and focuses on a single lightly armored foe. It was brilliant enough to decide which one to take out, purely on the fact that
The easy targets.
Yeah, the easy target. So Yeah, I mean, as a DM, you have to decide what's your tactic with these things. You know, are you going to go bull rush the big guy, or are you going to
You
bull
go
rush...
and you eat the wizard.
Yeah, eat the wizard. You know, the one that's actually going to throw that lightning back at you.
Would they have the same resistances as the blue dragons if they're made to combat these dragons?
That's up to the DM. I would say so.
Naturally, they do.
Yeah.
If in like 5e and
And
in 4e they are resistant to lightning, and 5e they're immune.
Okay.
So they do have a natural resiliency to lightning. Typically, in the same environment where they live are blue dragons, so there's that to factor in. It's also within the possibility that they could run into other dragons.
Well, then the type of territory, like I know that they are kind of hilly climates. What about jungles? Would they run into green dragons?
That's what I just had the slight thought. I know that there's a specific origins for storm giants, but couldn't it be possible that they created other types of Behirs? Different,
Well,
much the same as like different types of dragons.
I'm sure there would be, just because they go wherever dragons are to fight them. So any kind of climate, any kind of terrain, there could be. You could create your own type.
That's what I was just
a
thinking.
desert
Like,
one,
maybe
a
more of
jungle one.
a literal.
You know, a desert snake. So you're
Hydra
gonna be-
Behir.
I was thinking of either having it where they're specifically like the variants on a dragon, or there are ones specifically made to face dragons. So, say if you were to go against a red dragon, you would have it resistant to fire damage, but spew a different type of damage.
Yeah.
Maybe there's like some sort of cult that's researched into how the storm giants have created the Behirs, and based off of that, they go about creating their own sort of variations on the Behir.
Just a thought. Like I'm thinking of like how they would get around, and maybe you would want to camouflage it. Like think of like Monsters Inc., where there's that monster that
Randall.
actually can't. Randall, yeah. Like he looks like a snake-like creature.
He
Just
does look
camouflage,
like a Behir,
yeah.
He's got many arms.
Just kind of camouflage it into the sand or into the jungles or trees. It kind of slinks around, and
Well, it doesn't even
it
have
is a
stealthy
huge
Behir.
creature.
It doesn't even
So-
have to have the invisibility. Just have the natural camouflage, like a
Right,
military
a cam-
man, or
I mean, they are natural predators. It would work to their advantage very well.
Yeah.
Eventually evolve to the state where they can literally take down whatever they come across in their environment.
Now, I know that they're rarely seen, but they have to mate, right?
According to the 4e lore, Behirs do eject their young from their lairs shortly after birth, forcing them to fight to survive. So they do
Very much
have-
like a dragon, actually.
Yeah, so they do reproduce. They do have a multiple egg count, and then
I imagine they wouldn't stay for very long. They would
Right.
separate after
Right.
mating, and then
the father basically leaves after.
They don't necessarily have to mate either. They could just be arcane creations.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
By the giants themselves. So
Yeah.
And I mean, what else could you do with a Behir? I mean, it's not only for combat. You could use its body parts for spellcasting. You could make a lightning scroll. You could
Use
I
the
don't
skin
know,
for armor.
neutralize its poison with its claws.
I wasn't necessarily
Kind of poison.
I wasn't necessarily thinking of anything like using the parts of the Behir or anything, but
Oh, thank you.
rather avoiding the encounter. They are somewhat intelligent creatures. They do speak. If you can appeal to a Behir's better nature and avoid being eaten
or electrified.
or constricted or any manner of other fun, untimely deaths. Well, let's say, because Behirs have problems having dragons around their lair, right? What if you, as a party, walk into this Behir's lair? It's trying to eat you, and let's
As
say
per usual.
you know that this dragon is around. You know Behirs hate dragons. Appeal to the Behir's better nature. Tell them that you're going to slay the dragon instead. That kind of goes off on a quest of its own.
Well,
And it would do it just because it hates the dragons.
Yeah.
Getting paid or anything.
I don't know. I feel like any bard of the party would ask to ride the Behir into battle with the blue dragon.
Behir would probably do that because it hates dragons that much.
And it's
I'm sure
it's
it
closer
depends.
to being like if it pulls a wrong stunt, well, you're already on it. Just
I don't know. Would you actually get shocked if you just sat on the? Would
Just,
it be
like,
a
touching
constant
it?
like
I can't
don't-
imagine.
like an eel or
I
something?
feel like it's a like a gland, much like the
Okay.
dragons, where it's just a.
I don't know, I like
a
that idea.
charge shot.
I feel
Like one
it's
that's like extra charged.
Like it's static.
It's constant
like constant
discharge.
static electricity.
So it's the bad guy from Amazing Spider-Man 2?
Yes.
Yeah,
You mean Electro?
Yeah.
Electra.
Yeah.
I picture just a group of adventurers just walking at night in the mountains and just a lightning storm just erupt right in front of them.
I was just
Or like 50 feet off where they can't see it, but then all of a sudden sparks.
It must have been a loud party. They typically sleep at night.
Oh, do they?
Yeah, they're daywalkers and they hibernate during the winter, much like a
I don't
snake.
know. They have that dark vision, so I would use it.
Well, I'm not saying
Yeah.
not to. I'm just saying
Yeah.
like.
Well, they are cave dwellers where it's not exactly.
That's
Yeah. I would say they're
Really
like
dark
day
cave.
hunters.
That's up to the DM.
I like the idea of the just a random storm coming out of nowhere and
Yeah.
you realize, oh, it's the Behir on the side of
I
the
mean,
cliff face.
it's more prevalent instead of a lightning storm in the daytime. Like it's not like
I don't know. It's still pretty
visual.
scary.
There's a sudden thunderstorm.
I know.
right
Have
now.
you seen
There's no clouds. It's clear
thunderstorms?
as day. Where's this thunderstorm coming from?
No, it's just more
Did you
you
hear
get
it
that
in the
more
distance?
visual aspect at night when you can see the lightning
Yeah.
spark.
Mm.
A little better.
Blue lightning.
Grease lightning.
Grease lightning. That
I know, Behirs are rather slick. You could cast grease on it.
12 legs just stumbling and then retract. Slide.
It's just a retract. It's just a
Yeah, they
huge
retract
slip
into the
of
body.
They don't retract. They go side to the side.
I would put it as a DM. I would retract it into the body.
So it's just basically
it's
got
a
claws
snake,
on the side?
and then just pop out and snag her.
I think
That would be
I see it
trying.
more as like a crocodile swimming, where it just puts it right next to it. And then just kinda
See, that's
slithers.
where I'd see the crocodile. 'Cause
Yeah.
The head I would imagine more like a dragon, especially with the horns.
Yeah.
Yeah, grease up that lightning lizard with the grease spells. That sounds wonderful.
Just put grease. Well, that's next to
One
like
more
a cliff.
encounter. You got that storm giant encounter, and around his neck is a Behir, much like a snake.
Oh.
You get that,
Well,
that
how
snake
big
charm.
is a storm giant?
Probably the same size.
Yeah, it won't
It's a
work.
giant.
It's a young Behir. Okay.
Would he actually wear it though?
Wear it, eat it, same thing.
If anything, it'd be more like its foot pets, something that'd keep at his side all the time.
Yeah,
Like two of them just like chained up next to him. Fetch.
I don't know. Are you an expert on storm giant society?
Well,
Maybe it's
no.
fashionable to wear a Behir.
I love this little extra
big?
from the Lost Caverns. I've already eaten 3 bats, 6 troglodytes, and a mind flare today. But that's okay. Plenty of room in my belly for you and your friends. That's awesome. Just like, because it is a huge creature, and you don't know how large that belly is.
Actually, I do know how large that belly is because it says it can only swallow one target at a time.
So it's medium size, or yeah.
I was just thinking, it swallows the creature and it's got the big bulge in its belly like a snake does. And would it make it slower? Would
Yeah.
it make it kind of sluggish?
Especially if it went further than its legs.
it
could
goes
handle.
into a full food coma
Mm.
after eating. So I think that's all we have today for Behir's.
Thank you for staying at the Bardic Inn. If you would like to hear more, we will be uploading new content Thursdays at noon PST on
iTunes, YouTube, SoundCloud, Castbox, and Podbean.
If you have any recommendations on future content, you can leave a comment on these various platforms, or you can contact us on Twitter at the Bardic Inn, or on Facebook at facebook.com/Bardic Inn.
We're your local bards.
Daniel.
Andrew.
Dave,
And Jake.
be inspired.